Do you honestly think that $80,000 sports car or that one-of-a-kind designer bag proves you have sophisticated taste? What if I told you it actually proves you're being hacked? Here is the uncomfortable truth. That urge to splurge isn't a sign of your success. It is a 50,000-year-old biological glitch. Think of it like this. Your brain is hardware built for the Stone Age, trying to run software designed by Madison Avenue. It's a compatibility error, and retailers are exploiting it to pickpocket your future self. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you the secret code hidden in your DNA that makes you click buy before your conscious brain even wakes up. We are going to expose exactly how your biology is betraying your bank account, and more importantly, how to finally rewrite the code. Picture this. You're waiting at a red light. Suddenly, you hear a roar that rattles your fillings. A bright red Ferrari pulls up next to you. The driver is wearing sunglasses that cost more than your first car. Now, be honest. What is your immediate thought? What a jerk. He's compensating for something. He just wants to show off. Most of us write this guy off as insecure. But if we look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology, specifically the science we rely on right now in 2026, something much weirder is happening. Your conscious brain thinks he's annoying, but your subconscious lizard brain, it is actually taking notes. See, in the wild, the color red is not a subtle suggestion. It is the color of high-stakes energy. It is the color of fresh blood, ripe fruit, and high testosterone. In the animal kingdom, you don't paint yourself red unless you can back it up. If you are a weak gazelle, you camouflage, you hide. You try to look like a bush, but if you are strong, you paint a target on your back. To a man's primitive brain, that red car isn't a mode of transportation. It is a successful hunt. It screams, I have enough excess calories to be this visible to predators and still survive. It is a broadcast signal that says, I am so competent at gathering resources that I can afford to waste them. Let me put this in a way that breaks your brain a little bit. A man buying a giant red truck is basically a caveman walking into a tribe holding a giant glowing leg of mammoth and shouting, look at my high-definition protein, ladies. It sounds ridiculous, right? But think about it. If that caveman walked in with just enough berries to survive the night, nobody cares. That's utility. That's a Honda Civic. But walking in with a mammoth leg you can't possibly eat by yourself? That is a flex. That is a biological billboard saying, my genetics are so superior, I have surplus. This is what biologists call costly signaling. The value of the item is its wastefulness. The fact that the sports car has 2 seats and gets 5 miles to the gallon isn't a bug, it's the feature. If it were practical, it wouldn't be a status symbol. It would just be a minivan. And before you laugh at the Ferrari guy, I have to ask, have you ever fallen for this trap? I want you to admit it in the comments right now. Type guilty if you have ever bought something inconvenient or expensive just because it felt premium. Let's see how many of us are actually just cavemen in designer jeans. Because here is the kicker. Marketers figured this out decades before you did. They know that if they can trigger your desire to signal surplus to the tribe, you will empty your savings account to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. Now let's flip the script. If the giant red truck is the Mammoth, what is the limited edition handbag? To the untrained eye, waiting 6 months for a bag that looks exactly like the one next to it seems insane. But we are looking at this through the wrong lens. We are judging a gatherer by the rules of a hunter. In the gathering era, survival didn't depend on killing one big, loud thing. It depended on acuity. It depended on the ability to scan a chaotic landscape of green leaves and spot the one patch of ripe berries that everyone else missed. Finding the rare resource wasn't just lunch, it was proof that you had superior pattern recognition skills. So when a woman tracks down a sold-out item, her brain isn't just saying, I like this leather. It is firing off the same ancient dopamine sequence as a gatherer who just found a hidden grove of medicinal herbs during a drought. The limited edition label is a biological trigger. It screams, this resource is scarce. If you secure it, you aren't just a shopper, you are the most observant, capable provider in your tribe. It is the ancient thrill of securing the unsecurable. I know this sounds like a stretch, but let's be real. I once spent 40 minutes in a stationery aisle comparing 2 identical black pens. Why? Because my brain was convinced that the one with the micro-grip texture was the superior tool for my survival. Spoiler alert, I lost both of them within a week, and I'm pretty sure the inferior one is currently under my fridge. We do this because our brains are designed to obsess over the slightest advantage. In 2026, we actually have the data to back this up. Neuro-marketing studies from late last year showed that when consumers see a "only one left" notification, their critical thinking shuts down and their resource hoarding instinct takes over. So, the next time you see someone obsessing over an exclusive exclusive drop, realize this. They aren't trying to be trendy. They are signaling social survival. They are walking into the cave and saying, look at this rare fruit. I found it when the rest of you were sleeping. But here is where it gets dangerous. Because once you understand that your brain treats scarcity like survival, you start to see the trap. Let's simplify the jargon. If you read the textbooks, they call this consumer evolutionary psychology. That is boring. In 2026, I prefer to call it the Savannah Recipe. Here is the recipe. Your brain does not know it is in a shopping mall. It thinks it is still on the African plains 50,000 years ago, trying not to starve. Step 1 is the setup. The mall is the savannah. The neon signs? Those are the stars we navigate by. The sale rack? That is a fruit tree heavy with resources. Step 2 is the mode, the hunter versus the gatherer. Now, I know we are in 2026 and gender roles have evolved, but biologically, our scanning hardware is still running ancient software. Let's look at the hunter mode, usually the male pattern. When a man walks into a store to buy jeans, he enters like a sniper. He has a target package, Levi's, 32 waist, dark wash. He enters the terrain. He ignores the scenery. He moves in a straight tactical line, neutralizes the target, and extracts immediately. It is basically a hostage rescue mission. He wants to grab the asset and get to the chopper before he gets ambushed by options. If a sales assistant asks, do you want to see the matching belt? His brain panics. That wasn't in the mission briefing. That's a variable. Abort! Now, contrast that with gatherer mode, the scout. When a woman enters the same store, she isn't just looking for the kill. She is mapping the terrain. She picks up a shirt, feels the fabric, and puts it back. To the hunter, this looks like wasting time, but to the gatherer, this is essential data collection. She is checking for ripeness. In the wild, you don't just grab the first berry you see. It might be poison. You compare the color, the texture, the location. When she browses, she is building a mental database of where the good resources are hiding for future droughts. Actually, I'm curious. Regardless of gender, which one are you? Are you the sniper who wants to get in and out, or the scout who needs to see everything before buying? Drop a comment with sniper or scout below. I want to see the ratio. But here is where the Savannah Recipe gets terrifying. Retailers know you are running this software. They know that if they put a limited time countdown clock on a website, they are hacking the hunter's anxiety that the prey is getting away. And when they use tactile marketing, leaving items in messy piles so you have to dig, they are hacking the gatherer's dopamine loop of finding a hidden gem. You think you are browsing. They know you are foraging. And that brings us to the most dangerous part of the recipe. Because once you know how they trigger the hunt, you realize that the most addictive thing in the mall isn't the product, it's the friction. Let's test your survival instincts. I want you to imagine you are walking past two storefronts right now. Store A has a massive red sign, 90% off. Store B has a tiny discreet sign, only 5 left. Here is the question. Which sign triggers a faster heart rate in men versus women? Do not overthink it. Trust your gut. 3, 2, 1. If you said men go for the sale and women go for the scarcity, you are wrong. If you said the opposite, you are also wrong. Here is the plot twist that destroys the textbook definition of marketing. The answer is neither. Your brain doesn't actually care about the price or the quantity. It cares about the rival. A study released in late 2025 by behavioral economists finally cracked this code, and it is fascinating. They found that when a man sees only 5 left, his brain does not see a product. It sees a competitor. It triggers a spike in testosterone similar to a physical confrontation. The hunter software says, another predator is about to take my resources. I must strike first. He isn't buying the item. He is buying the win. It is basically the same logic as a dog with a tennis ball. The ball is boring until another dog looks at it. Suddenly, that slobbery piece of rubber is the crown jewels of England. But for women, the only 5 left sign triggers a completely different circuit, social safety.
The gatherer software doesn't want to fight, it wants validation. If there are only 5 left, it means the tribe has already vetted this. It signals, this is safe, this is high quality. Everyone else is eating these berries, so they aren't poisonous. So while the man is racing to beat the clock, the woman is reassured by the crowd. Same sign. 2 completely different biological hallucinations. I have to know, when you see only 1 left in stock, what is your gut reaction? Do you feel the panic of the race or the comfort of the crowd? Be honest. Tell me in the comments. And this is where we walk into the trap, because once retailers know you are reacting to invisible people, either fighting them or following them, they can sell you absolutely anything. Which brings us to the single most dangerous weapon in their arsenal, the one thing that overrides both the hunter and the gatherer. The single most dangerous weapon in their arsenal is the architecture. I want you to picture the floor you are walking on. In a luxury store, think Rolex or Louis Vuitton, the floor is thick carpet. The lights are dim. The music is slow, instrumental, and barely audible. Why? Because they are building speed bumps. They want to slow your heart rate down to 60 beats per minute. They are triggering the gatherer mode. Relax, dwell, bond with the object. It is the architectural equivalent of a warm bath. Now, think of a discount supermarket or a fast fashion outlet. Hard, polished concrete, fluorescent lights that buzz slightly, upbeat pop music playing at 100 beats per minute. These are straightaways. They are designed to make you walk faster, chew faster, and decide faster. They don't want you to think. They want you to panic buy. It is the exact same strategy used by nightclubs versus libraries. One is designed to make you buy $20 cocktails because you can't hear yourself think. The other is designed to make you read for free. If you tried to study for a final exam in a rave, you'd fail. But we try to make financial decisions in retail raves every single day. And as we stand here in 2026, the digital world has perfected this trap. Open your Amazon app. Look at a lightning deal. You see that little orange bar filling up? 70% claimed. That is not a progress bar. That is disappearing prey. User interface designers know exactly what they are doing. They are mimicking the visual of a gazelle running away from you. Your brain sees the bar move and snaps into kill mode. Your logic center, the part of you that knows you do not need a Bluetooth toaster, shuts down. Imagine a split screen. On the left, a modern guy sweating while a lightning deal timer counts down. On the right, a caveman screaming at a self-checkout machine. The machine blares, "Unexpected item in bagging area," and the caveman smashes it with a club because the robotic voice triggered the same adrenaline spike as a saber-toothed tiger jumping out of a bush. I have to ask, when you are scrolling and you see that 70% claimed bar, does your thumb hover over the buy button automatically, like a reflex? Or do you scroll past? Be honest. Type hunter or gatherer in the comments right now. But here is the problem. While you are fighting your own biology, the retailers are using a new technology that reads your mind before you even open the app. And this is where we leave the architecture and enter the realm of prediction. But here is the deeper truth. These instincts were meant for a world of scarcity, in a world of abundance. And let's be real, the hyperabundance of 2026, these same instincts are making us broke. Your brain thinks you are gathering for a harsh winter. It thinks that if you don't buy that air fryer right now, you might starve in January. But you are not gathering for winter. You are filling a closet with plastic junk that will be out of style by next Tuesday. It is the biological equivalent of a squirrel breaking into a Costco warehouse. In the wild, a squirrel that buries 1,000 nuts is a genius survivalist. But inside a Costco, that squirrel isn't a genius. It's having a nervous breakdown. It is burying almonds under the pallets of 85-inch TVs, screaming, "Winter is coming!" while the air conditioning blasts at 70 degrees. That squirrel is you. That squirrel is me. We are burying deals of the day in our garages because our 200,000-year-old software hasn't received the update that says, "Relax, buddy. The berries aren't running out. The berries are being delivered by a drone in 15 minutes. And this mismatch leads us to the most dangerous signal of all. For decades, we bought things to signal status. You buy the red sports car to tell the tribe, "I have resources. I am a capable mate." But as we stand here in 2026, the signal has inverted. When you buy that flashy, unnecessary object today, you aren't signaling status to other humans. You are signaling vulnerability to the algorithm. The moment you click buy on a high impulse item, you are tagging yourself. The AI doesn't look at you and say, "Wow, cool car." It looks at your data profile and says, "Target acquired, low dopamine response, vulnerable to scarcity tactics." The red car isn't a trophy anymore. It is a giant neon sign that tells every advertiser from New York to Shenzhen, this person cannot resist a shiny object. Squeeze them until they are dry. You think you are playing the status game, but the computer knows you are just playing the whale game. And in a casino, the whale is the only one who loses everything. So if our own biology is the traitor and the architecture is the trap, what is the weapon? The weapon is prediction. Because while you are distracted by the shiny object, the system has already calculated your next 3 moves before you've even had your morning coffee. So, how do you beat a supercomputer that knows you better than you know yourself? You don't. You can't outcalculate the algorithm, but you can confuse it. You have to do the one thing the machine cannot predict. You have to glitch your own matrix. We call this the neurological mismatch. The algorithm is betting on your biology. It knows that 99% of the time, a hunter will hunt and a gatherer will gather. To stop overspending, you have to deliberately cross-wire your instincts. You have to force your inner software to crash. First, let's talk to the hunters. You know who you are. You see it. You want it. Click. Bought.
Your brain thinks you just speared a gazelle. The dopamine spikes instantly. I know this feeling. I once bought a professional-grade sous vide machine at 2 a.m. because a YouTube short made a steak look like a religious experience. I have used it exactly once to boil an egg. If you are a hunter, your mismatch strategy is the 24-hour freeze. When the urge hits, you are allowed to click. You are allowed to put it in the cart, but you are forbidden from checking out. You have to let the kill sit there. To a hunter, this feels physically painful. Your brain screams, "The meat will rot, the deal will expire," but you are forcing yourself to switch modes. You are gathering information, not products. And here is the magic. In 2026, the dopamine half-life of a product is about 15 minutes. When you come back 24 hours later, the fog clears. You don't see a life-changing gadget anymore. You just see a $50 piece of plastic that you'll have to dust every week. Then we have the gatherers. You don't sprint, you graze. You have 47 tabs open right now, don't you? You fill your cart with possibilities. A yoga mat you won't use. A book on Python coding you won't read. Your brain thinks you are foraging for a safe future. Your mismatch? You must become the hunter. You need the sniper protocol. You do not enter the digital marketplace without a hit list. One item. You search, you buy, you close the browser. No wandering down the digital aisles. No customers also bought. You treat Amazon like hostile territory where loitering gets you killed. Actually, pause for a second. Let's audit your brain right now. Open your phone. Check your last 3 purchases. Be honest. Was it a hunt, a fast, impulse grab? Or was it a gather, a pile of stuff you stewed over for days? Drop a comment below. Are you a hunter or a gatherer? I'll be down there replying to see which ancestor is currently driving your bank account. By simply acknowledging this caveman in your head, you stop being a passenger. You finally get the keys to the cage. But be warned, holding the keys and opening the door are 2 different things. Because once you step out, you have to face the real reason you were shopping in the first place. So let's look that real reason in the eye. You didn't buy those limited edition sneakers because you have a deep passion for rubber soles. You bought them because your brain is biologically terrified of being the only caveman who didn't find the berry bush. It's not retail therapy. It is prehistoric panic. Your amygdala isn't shopping. It is screaming, "If I don't get this resource, I will be the outcast who starves in winter." But here is the beautiful part, the red pill moment. Once you see this code, the marketing spell breaks. The moment you look at a flash sale and say, "Oh, that's just my inner hunter afraid of missing the gazelle," the power vanishes. It stops being a must-have and starts looking like a desperate attempt to hack your biology. But don't get too comfortable. Now that you know why you start buying, you need to understand the mechanism they use to ensure you never stop. You need to see how systems like Netflix weaponize dopamine loops to make 4 a.m. feel exactly like 10 p.m. Click right here to see how that engine works, because if you can't spot the trap, you are already in it.